We will talk about that and more with Illinois Congressman Eric Sorensen. Welcome back to the program.
Good to be back, Jim.
You haven't quite reached the 3-month mark on Capitol Hill. It's a short honeymoon with Republicans in the House and Democrats in the Senate pursuing different agendas right off the bat. Now the president submitted his budget of $6.8 trillion, pursuing for $5 trillion in tax increases over 10 years. What's your initial reaction to that?
Well, we've got to make sure, and I think the president has put forth a budget that allows us to live within our means. What we're seeing, the talking points on the other side, is that there's out of control spending. Well, let's just put it out there. $1.7 trillion has been taken out of the budget while President Biden has been in office. So this continues that we need to live within our means, and we're doing that.
Well, the $5 trillion is a much bigger tax target, though, than the $2 trillion the president proposed originally in the Build Back Better plan last year before you were in office. Biden says his budget wouldn't raise taxes for people who make less than $400,000 a year, though. How does this have any chance in the House?
Well, I think it means that there's a starting point for the negotiations, and we need to make sure that there's full faith in that negotiation. For instance, I took to the House to be able to stand up in a press conference just last week to stand up against this 30% sales tax increase that the Republicans are putting forth as an idea. I don't want to see any taxes increased because, listen, there are a lot of people not only in this district but around our country that are struggling to make ends meet. We need to make sure that we're keeping as much money in the pockets of individuals as we can. We see it in our own barometer that the cost of milk, the cost of eggs is still very high at the grocery store. The cost of gas is still very high. We need to make sure that we bring these costs down, but no tax increases would I be supportive of.
None, not at all, or just you're talking about lower middle income?
Well, for middle class Americans, we need to make sure that the wealthiest in our nation pay their fair share.
Because this budget does call for a 25% tax on billionaires directly, raising the corporate tax rate, and a higher tax rate on capital gains for millionaires specifically. The president's focused on cutting the deficit with tax hikes without doing so much on the spending front. Democrats Barack Obama and Bill Clinton actually did have tax increases along with spending cuts. In fact, spending cuts made up a larger portion of their deficit reduction plans. How smart is President Biden's policy approach in your eyes?
Well, look, Jim, the fact is, going through the pandemic, when so many families were struggling, who were making record profits? It was the millionaires and the billionaires running these corporations. We have to look at that disparaging level of wealth in our country, and the fact that this happened in a time where people were trying their hardest. And we have to look at making sure that we're strengthening the middle class, that we're making sure that there are jobs here, not only for what we need today, that we're making sure that we're building the workforce. There is a job and a worker shortage, as you know. We've got to meet the demands today, because if we can't meet them today, we're not going to meet the challenges of tomorrow.
Republicans, as you know, have been insistent in terms of just raising the debt ceiling that they have to have spending cuts to go along with. Shouldn't spending cuts be part of the deficit reduction plan too, not just the tax increases?
Well, we have to make sure that we look at everything. What I believe is as the government takes our taxes, we have to make sure that everything that is spent by the federal government is an investment. We have to make sure that we're investing in our communities, investing in our families, investing in our jobs. And then as we go forward, we can see what works. What I'm focused on is meeting the needs of the people as a whole. I'm not just working for the 52% of the people that voted for me. I'm not working for the president. I'm working for the people here that need me to go to bat for them. We've seen time and time again, folks around here believe that Washington it might as well be on another planet.
Well, some Democrats have expressed surprise, though, with the magnitude of this budget. Do you have any concerns from a political standpoint?
No, I think we work forward and we make sure that we're making the investments. Also making sure that in the 117th Congress, I don't think the president got enough of a pat on the back for what had happened during COVID to bring us out the other side stronger, to keep inflation in check. But there's a lot more work to be done.